Hello everyone, this is what we're going to be painting on this video. It's a whimsical little piece with dragonflies. I've titled Dragonfly Away. And on my wings, we've got some glamour dust, which make all of them have glamour dust on them, but just a few of them have the liquid glass on here to make them look like glass. You could put it on all of them, but I just put it on 3 of them. And then even the letters have glamour dust on them, although I can't get it to reflect in the camera shot there. So this was a lot of fun to do. A very whimsical piece, which is a little bit different for me, but I had fun painting it. So I hope that you enjoy it. Let's get started. Alright, beginning this project, the first thing I've done is to apply, can't even talk this morning, a coat of multi-purpose sealer with a dampened artist sponge. So now I want to put my base coat on, which I am going to make Salem Blue, my base coat. So again, I'm going to take that artist sponge and load it up. Just a tad bit more paint here. Load it up on there and just paint this. And you want to make sure your multi-purpose sealer is dry. It should dry pretty quickly. Applying it with a sponge. Smooth it out. And this coat will dry very quickly too. I'm going to get a piece of this sponge, which this is going to be new on my website. I'm going to sell this in pieces of 2 for $1. So be looking for that if you are interested in this type of sponge. I think that it just does a wonderful job for stippling on backgrounds. So I'm going to put on my palette some light orchid. As soon as I can get this new bottle open. And some lavender and some white. And I'll put out a little bit more of our base color, which was the Salem Blue, in case I need it. If I need to do a little bit of blending, I like to have that available. Okay, so on this sponge here, I am going to pick up all 3 of these colors right here. So I've got all 3 of them on my sponge. And then I'm just going to come over here on my surface. I want to make sure all 3 colors are there to see. We're going to start stippling this on here. A little bit more white here. I know it looks pretty bright and pretty like, oh my gosh, what in the world is she doing? But trust me, have I ever led you astray? I have not. We can do this together. I'm going to pick up a little bit of my base color because I feel like I'm losing some of it. I just found a spot where I didn't have paint. So I've got 4 colors of paint on my sponge right now. And depending on where I put the pressure, if I want more pressure on the pink, I will put more pressure on the pink area. If I want more purple, I will put more pressure on the purple area. And then my sponge is damp, so I can just simply blend them and work them to a nice mottled little background. Get some more of my base color here. A little bit more white. That was a lot of white. May not need that much white. Have a little bit more of some of my other colors. Pink, some white, some of the blue, and just work. I'm going back and forth like this and gently blending and stipple and blend and stipple and blend. You don't want it to turn to mud, so don't let it turn to mud. A little bit more white in there, I think. I'm going to lay some white in here and then come back and blend it a little bit. If you need to go to the opposite side of your sponge to blend, you can do that. I want that white to really kind of pop out there. That looks pretty good for a stippled background. Not too bad at all. I like it. Okay, I think I'm going to add just a little bit more white in there because I feel like it needs a little bit of brightening. And we're working wet into wet paint here, so work quickly so you don't start lifting. Okay, before I went to apply my pattern, I felt like I had lost my blue. So I picked up a little bit on my sponge and just kind of applied that around the border of my surface here. So I think I'll put a little bit of it around in the middle, because blue was our primary color that we were starting with, and I didn't want to lose that. And I felt like I lost just a touch too much of it. So just a little bit back in there. Okay, now I'll get it dry and get my pattern on. Okay, I've got all my pattern lines on here for what I want to start with. I think the background turned out really cool. Very cool effect. So now I want to add just a light color of white in there. Now there's two ways that you can do this. I'm going to use this Vintage Effects whitewash in my wing areas, but you could take some glazing medium and some white and mix some of that and apply it. We want it to be a little bit sheer in this Vintage Effects whitewash will help us get that effect. So I am just going to put a little bit on my brush and apply it inside my wing shapes. I'm mixing just a tiny bit of water with this to help make sure that it stays more on the sheer side. We're going to have some cool looking wings here. This is a very whimsical design, very, very different for me, so I'm hoping that it turns out really cute. There's so many different things that you can do inside these butterfly wings that will just make them look super whimsical. So we're going to try some of that on here. So all of your wings will have just a wash of either white with some glazing medium or the Vintage FX whitewash, adding a little bit of water to the paint to keep it a little bit more on the sheer side. So I'm going to go off camera and finish getting all of my wings painted in with this whitewash. Okay, so I thought I'd come back real quick and show you that this particular Dragonfly right here has like 4 wings coming off of it. So we'll just fill in all of the areas. And this one has 2. And this one's got 4. And they're all overlapping. So I thought I would just come back and point that out so that you could get that effect in there. So you would know kind of where you're going with the wings there. Okay, I've got all my wings with their white on them, which is just that wash. So now I want to start adding some color to our wings, and this is where you can really have some fun. Now I am going to be using the Media Line paints, the fluid acrylics. These are very pigmented. You need very little paint. I mean, I have little bitty dots of paint here. You need very little paint, and we're just going to start adding some color in on our wings. So I want to make sure they're dry because I want to dampen my wings. Okay, I've got a little bit of water on there. Okay, so I'm going to go into one of my colors here, which is my turquoise. And I'm just going to kind of pity-pat that in there, staying within my line shapes. And then I'm going to go into some darker blue and kind of put that in there. A little bit more of my turquoise. I really want to do this while the paint is still wet. I mean, while the water is still wet in there. And I had too much water on my brush there, so it just kind of started to remove my paint. Okay, just pity-pat. Pity-pat. And you probably can't see the 2 colors in there very well. Let me go over here to this one. I'll try and lay it in just a tad darker. So I'm using Ultramarine Blue and Cobalt Teal Hue. So this is the Ultramarine Blue. I'll put it in first. It's a little bit brighter. And see how the water is dispersing it? And it's not going past where I have my water, because I only put my water in certain places. So it's kind of like watercolor in that respect, where you can blend it out. You know, it will go out with the water, and then you can kind of work it similar when you want that transparent look. I want a little bit more blue over here. And I wiped my brush off, and now it's picking up paint, and I don't want it to be picking up paint. So let me wipe that off again. It's still picking up paint. I'm just kind of digging a hole in that wing, so I'm going to leave that wing alone. Alright, I'm going to dampen down here, and I'm just going to use the turquoise down here. Wash my brush out so I can have just water loaded in it here, and dampen this wing. A little bit more water. I want it can't talk. I want it to disperse a little bit more. See how that's going? It's just spreading out on its own because it's joining with that water there. Okay, well, we'll come back and add some detail on there. That's going to look pretty cool. Okay, so for this one here, let's do some magenta. This is a super duper bright color. So I think this time, instead of putting the water on the wing, I'm going to thin my paint down with some water and get it kind of sheer. And then I'm going to come over here and brush it in. That's quite a bit of water there, so I'll just remove it. It's helpful if you touch your brush to your paper towel before you take it to your surface to get any of the water that's on the tip of the brush off. And you can arrange the colors within your wings any way that you want to. Any way that makes you happy, you just do it that way. We got other detail that we're going to be putting in here. This is just kind of the background of the wings. So we needed that white on there so this paint didn't just soak down into the background, although it wouldn't have. This media paint is pretty bright, so we probably wouldn't have had any trouble with it there. Alright, I've got a green here now. This is blue-green light. I think I might get me a yellow out here. So I think I'm going to put this color over here on this one. Oh, these colors are so pretty. And it takes just a small amount, like I said, it's just amazing, the small amount of paint that you need to take care of these. Alright, I've got a purple now. This is quinacridone magenta, I think. Quinacridone violet. I think I'm going to bring it clear over here to this one. A little bit too much water. Wipe that off. Okay, just fill that in very softly. Looking good. Alright, let me pick out some yellows, maybe an orange. Alright, I pulled out some orange. That is vermilion. Very pretty color. So, which one do I want? Orange. I think I'll make this one orange. A little bit more water in my paint. Thin it down. There we go, that's much lighter. This is pretty dark. So tap a paper towel in there and remove that. Redo it. It was just a little tiny bit too dark. Didn't have enough water in my paint. Still just a tad dark. I mean, really, it's mostly water, not hardly any paint. So this one I'm going to do yellow. This is Dairy Light Yellow. How pretty are these colors? Oh my gosh. I am just in love with this media line. So much you can do with it. Okay, we're going to let all those wing colors get dry. This one and this one look very similar on the camera shot, but this one is definitely more purple. Not sure what color we're going to do our lettering in yet. But I do want to, I think I'm going to do all of the bodies in black. I think I just want to keep it pretty simple for them. So we'll just use our acrylic paint for that. Just our regular acrylic paint. Lamp black. And maybe a little bit smaller brush here. I've just been using a round brush so far. That one was a 4 round and this one is a 1 round. These are Winsor Newton round brushes. I really like them a lot. So we got some eyes here. And a big old fat body here. And then some little parts to the body. You can make your dragonfly bodies any way that you want to. I kind of tried to mix them up a little bit. So they'll all be painted in with black. And this little guy, I didn't even paint him any antennas on him. Or that guy, so I didn't draw any on him. Okay, then this one just comes straight back. I'm going to twist the brush, come up on the tip so I can get a nice thin little line there at the end. This is just simple fill in the shape. Outline it. And then fill it in. This one stays fat all the way down. We can come back and erase our graphite lines here in a little bit. Alright, this one's got a couple little eyeballs, or big eyeballs. I guess these aren't technically the eyes. On a dragonfly there would be 2 little eyes up here. But this is my interpretation of some dragonflies. I'm pushing down on the brush, giving full pressure. Now I'm coming up on the tip and I'm going to let that just slide off of there. Ran out of paint. And give him a little tail. Okay. Now these last 2, they are simple comma strokes. I think this brush is big enough to fill in that area. So first I'm going to get the shape up there. Yeah, that brush, this brush is not big enough. Let me go to a bigger brush. The brush that I did have will probably work. So what I'm going to do is push down on the brush, lay it flat, follow my shape. Now I'm coming up on the brush, coming up on it. I'm turning it, turning it, turning it to come up on the very tip so I can get a nice fine little tail right there. This one's not as long. You got to have some water in your paint. You're not going to be able to do this if you don't have any water in your paint. So this one's just a simple comma stroke. Lay the brush down, pressure. Alright, start coming up, follow your shape, come up, come up, come up on the tips, come up on the tips and follow your shape. There you go. Simple little comma strokes. Okay, the rest of the antenna and all that stuff we're going to do with a Identi-pen. So we're not going to worry about that right now. Let's paint in our letters while we continue to let our everything over here dry before we move on to adding different things to it. This is a little bit difficult on this spinner with this thing because I have to have it hanging off in order to have this part on. My table keeps wanting to wobble. Okay, so we've got all of our initial colors in. So we're going to build from there onto those wings. But for now, let's go to our letters. And I think I'm going to paint my letters in with white, because then I can wash some colors on at the end. If I want to put some colors on those letters, I can just wash some right in over it. So this, these letters are going to be pretty easy. Now remember, when you are adding water to your light colors like white, you want to use clean water because you don't want to change the color of your paint. So these are just kind of, you can outline them and then fill them in, or if you've got a brush that can fill in and get the job done in just a few strokes, that's the way that I would recommend going. But if you feel much better outlining it and then filling it in, then do that. But it's just a simple little fill in, kind of block lettering up on the tip of your brush when you're into some more tighter areas, and then lay the brush more flat when you are in some bigger areas. And depending on how big your area is, it will depend on how much pressure you give on the brush. Okay, so I'm going to go off camera and fill in my letters because it's just a simple fill in. Okay, I've got my letters finished painted in. I just did one coat of white. And I went in and added some of my detail lines in here. So I'm going to zoom in. And we're going to work on this dragonfly first. So I'm taking some of the media paint, the Dairy Light Yellow, thinning it down with some water. And I'm just going in here and picking some random places on the wings to put some of this color. This is thinned down a little bit with some water, but not as much as when we did the initial wings. Now this wing was done in with some orange, remember? I'm missing some lines here. Okay, so that's with our yellow, our Dairy Light Yellow. I'm going to go in with a little bit more of the orange that we did in the background, which was vermilion, and thin that down a little bit, not as much as we did initially. And I'm going to put some of this color in here too, I think. It's still a pretty light color, but not as light as we initially did it. Now you can put any design that you want on these wings. You do not have to make them like I am doing. This is where you get to let your creativity just come out and make some decisions and go for it. That's the scariest part. Just go for it. So I missed this one. Let me do this one real quick. A little bit of this orange. Vermilion is this color. Ooh, isn't that pretty? It's almost like stained glass in there. I love it. Okay, I think we'll add a little bit of white. So I'm going to thin some white down. See if I'm going to like this. I might not like this. This might take the color down too much. So we'll put just a few white ones in here. I don't have very much paint on my brush. Thinned it down a little bit with some water. Darken these up just a little bit. Let's get one more white one over here. Yeah, I think I'll make the tip of this one white. All of these paints are thinned down a little bit with some water. Okay, so there we go. We've got some yellow, a little bit of that vermilion, which I think the vermilion ones I'm going to darken just a tiny bit because I think I want them to stand out the most. So I'm just putting another layer of this on here. It's still thinned with some water. And look, I loaded the brush one time and it went all the way. Okay, let me wide angle out to see that one at a distance. We've got to add more detail, our final detail lines and stuff at the end. We're going to add some sparkle on here. We're going to add some glass effects on here. So these dragonflies are just going to be spectacular. And that one looks like so much fun. I love that. It almost looks like quilted wings. So that's very whimsical. I like that. So let's move on to this one over here. Okay, let's go to this one here. Let me zoom in so we can see it. I think on this one I'm going to add the Ultramarine Blue onto it. Let me get some fresh paint out here. Since I'm just adding a little drop onto my palette, I don't feel like I'm wasting any paint here. So again, I'm going to thin it with a little bit of water, not nearly as thin as we did it over here on this one. And I want to paint in the circles or the ovals, whatever they are, on this dragonfly's wings. You can make any shapes on your wings that you want. Just anything that's whimsical, because that's what we're going for here. Oop, got into some white there, so let me clean my brush off and reload it. Ooh, that's dark. Too much. Too much. Can always come back and add more if we want it darker, but we sure can't take it away. Alright, go up to these wings. is, again, the Ultramarine Blue and the Fluid Acrylics. A little bit more down here. And I just kind of drew some oval shapes on the wings. Okay, I think I'm going to just make a few of them darker, not all of them. So just pick and choose, kind of like we did over there. We're going to go back in and erase our graphite lines later. Just darken a few of them. Can't tell which ones I darkened over here. There we go, that's better. You be the judge. It's your dragonflies. That looks pretty good right there. Okay, that's all I'm going to do to that one for now. So I'm going to move over to this one. We've got more detail. We're going to add the shading and highlighting on these. So don't think that's all we're going to be doing. This one here, I want to use the Media Fluid Acrylics Metallic Silver. Now, if you're using just regular acrylics and you have the metallics in silver, you can use that. So we're just gonna, I just drew some like swirly lines on here. And so that's all I want to do is just paint in these swirly lines for now. You can put any design on here that you want. I just thought some little swirls would look very pretty. I'm using a very small round brush. I'm staying up on the very tip. You can use a detail liner if that makes it easier for you. So just some fun little shine in this one. And this is just fun, fun, fun. Okay, got the shine on those. Oh, this is becoming so much fun. So much fun. All right, for our yellow one, I'm going to add some, I think I might do some green. Some of the green that we put in this one over here. So I'm just going to put some like lines and some dots in the wing. I'm going to do each wing. Just a little line with 3 little dots. If you only have room for 2, that's okay. We might come back and do more to these wings, I don't know. I think once we shade those and separate them, they're going to be fun. Okay, now on to this one over here. This one that we painted in with the blue-green light. Let's see. Okay, so on this one I'm just going to put some stripes on the wings with the primary magenta. Again, I'm just using a small round, but you can use a detail liner if that's easier for you to get thinner lines. Okay, you can make zigzaggy lines, you can make thin, thick, you know, multiple lines on each wing. So that's up to you. Alright, our last one over here, I'm going to do some dots on it with some white. It's just our regular acrylic paint. Make this one a bigger dot. And then this wing here will have some dots on it. And this one. Okay, just some little dots. You can put dots all over the wings. I mean, the possibilities are endless on decorating all these wings. Okay, I'm going to wide angle out just a second here. I want to go in, this one needs to dry, but on all these other ones I want to start erasing my graphite lines that I didn't cover with any paint. So that means the outside lines as well as the inside lines. Anything that you didn't paint over should come off. Brush it away from your paint because you don't want it to get into your paint. Okay, so all of these I'm just going to go in and erase. Because now we're going to start adding some shading and highlighting on our wings. These all should be dry by now. It doesn't take very long since it's acrylic paint for it to dry. By the time you get done putting the decorations on each wing, they should be ready to erase any lines that you added in there. These lines in here won't erase because I painted over them. So anything that has paint applied over it will not come off. So you just need to be aware of that anytime that you're painting. And you put paint over a graphite line, a chalk line, anything. Some chalk will just disappear as you paint over it, which is helpful. But others will not. And I can't erase anything there because I've painted over those lines, so we won't worry about those. So we're going to get ready to start shading and highlighting on our wings now. Okay, I've got all my media colors out here that I use to base coat my wings in. I'm going to spritz this side of my palette with some water. Okay, so I can have water to load my brush in. I'm using a 6 chisel brush to do my shading with. You can use an angle brush, 1/4 inch, 3/8 if you're comfortable using that size, or just a 6 or 8 flat brush. I would go with an 8 probably. So that's what I'm going to use to float my color with. Okay, so I'm going to dampen my brush. Make sure it's damp. I'm going to load it with, so for this one here, I'm going to use my orange color, which is vermilion. And a teeny tiny, this is just regular black, our acrylic black. A little bit of black in there. I always go over here and kind of offload some of it because I don't want it to darken too quick. I can go back over here and pick that up if I need to darken just a little bit. Then I'm going to separate my wings. I'm going to shade along this back edge back here. Get my mop brush. I don't want it to be quite that hard of a line, so I'm just going to go right into it and kind of soften it into the wing a little bit. Zoom in. I'm just brush mixing, so whenever I run out of paint on my brush, I just go over and mix a little bit more. Okay, then this wing here. Go along the edge of this one. And the edge of this one. That's just with that mix. Okay, I think I need to bring it up just a little bit more orange of the vermilion in the mix, I think. That looks a little bit better. We don't want to get too carried away with the black when we're mixing it because it can take over our color real quick. Okay, I'm going to go next to the body as well. So right next here. Here. Bring that wing up just a little bit right there. Kind of connect them to the body just a little bit. Okay, then along the top edge, we're just going to take straight Snow White. And we're just going to create a little highlight along our top edges. It's almost lining the wings, but because I have water in my brush, it's softening it out and not making it a hard line on there. This is just kind of underneath anyway. I'm going to come back and add some fun little stuff on here because they're whimsical. And we want to keep them whimsical. So we're going to go in with our white and our little round brush or our detail liner, and we are going to add some dots and dashes on here. So I'm going to do a dot, dot, dash, dash, dot, 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 dash, dot, dot. Okay, so dot, well, maybe if I pick some paint up it might be helpful. Dot, dot, dash, dot, 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 dash, dot, dot. Dot, dot, dash, dot, 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 dash, dot, dot. Dot, dot, dash, dot, 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 dash, dot, dot. That wing kind of goes off, so we probably wouldn't see it all anyway. Okay, so that's those wings finished out for now. So we're going to move on to these wings. We'll come back and do all the bodies at the same time because they're all black. So all the detail in them will probably be similar. So over here on this one, we're going to shade on this one again with our black. And on this one we used the quinacridone magenta. So we'll mix that with some black, which will make like a cranberry wine color. So we're going to go along the bottom of our wing. All 4 of these wings will get the same. I want my brush to lay flat here and not be up on the chisel edge, so, and then here again it needs to be flat to get that nice soft float in there. Now when you come to a V, you want to push into that corner and then round it out. A little bit more paint on my brush here. Push into that V, round it out. Okay, I'm going to come back and go over that again with a little bit more of the quinacridone magenta in my brush this time. A little bit less black. Make sure they're dry. Oh, that's looking so pretty. These media paints, just amazing product. Can't sing their praises enough. I'm sure once you try them, you will not help yourself from singing praises as well. Okay, again, we're going to highlight with some white. I'm going to go up along this edge. Make that just a tad bit wider. And along this edge. You have to have a little bit of water in your brush so that you're not just lining it like you're using a liner. Get that water in your brush to soften that float out. Okay. Very, very cute. And on this one, we're going to add some dots on here as well. Dot, dot, dash. Dot, dot, dot. Dash, dot. Dot, dot, dash, dot, dot, dot. Dash, dot. Dot, dot, dash, dot, dot, dot. Dash, dot. And I forgot to shade next to the body, so I'm going to have to wait for the white and come back and do that with some of the black and magenta mix. Okay, let's go over here to this one. We're going to take our black and a little bit of the cobalt teal hue and just darken that up a little bit. More on the teal side, not so much on the black side. And with this one, we're going to shade along the bottoms of our wings. Mix me some more paint here. It's a little bit darker than the other side there. So let me get a little bit more of the teal. And we'll go next to the body. That one's probably dry now. I can do next to the body on it. Oops, wrong side. Try that again. Okay, I'm going to go back over to this one and shade it real quick next to the body. Ooh. Taking the water edge of my brush and cleaning that off, that was quite a little mess there. Okay, so back to this one over here for our highlight. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to do our dots and dashes. Or you can just do all dots or just all dashes. I think I'm going to start out with a dash. Dot, dot, dot. Dash, dot, dot, dot. Mix it up a little bit. Dash, maybe. Dash, dot, dot, dot. Dash, dot, dot, dot. These dots kind of faded in there. Alright. Didn't get that dash started in the right place, but it will be okay. It'll all work out in the end. I think I need to separate those wings just a little bit more. So a little bit more of our black. I'm going to work this black into my brush till it is a very sheer color. Working it in with the water. That's how you get your sheerest floats. And let's see, which wing would be on top? This one. So I might have to highlight the edge of that upper wing. So I'm going to create, oops, clean my brush out here, get the black out and load up some white. And I think we'll highlight along this edge here and make that wing appear a little bit more on top. I'm going to come back with some of that black. And float underneath this wing. And next to the body a little bit more. Soften that edge out. Okay, that looks much better. That was just that straight black that I had thinned down a little bit. I think that made that look much better. There with the wing separation. I might go over here and do the same thing over here, because I have this wing. I'm not sure which wing is on top, so I want to define that a little bit more. Let's get some white. That'll help put that on top more. And then some of that black right next to the body. Okay, so I have the black on my brush, I'll just go ahead and do a little bit over here next to the body. Okay, those are looking really cute, really whimsical. We're going to be adding more stuff to them, so not to worry. Okay, so for this one here, I think if I add black to my yellow, it's going to turn it green. Let me test that theory. Not too bad. So just a little bit of black. It makes it a little bit green, but that's okay. Pick up just a tiny dot of black on my brush here. So we want to try and separate all of our wings here. So this one is on top, and we've got this one here, and this one I think will be on top of that one. I'm going to add some of this in here to our top wing. Just a little bit into the center of the wing there. So now we're going to come back with some white. That was our yellow, which was the Dairy Light yellow and a tiny little bit of black. Again, if you're mixing it and it is turning completely green, clean your brush and start all over, because you've got too much black then. This wing I want to go all the way around it with the white, because I want it to definitely be on top, and then this one is on top of that little one back there, so we want that to stand out. So the top one gets white pretty much all the way around it. The one that sticks out the farthest just gets it on the end. The next one in gets it along the bottom and the outer edge. And then this one just gets it on the very outside of the wing. Okay, so that definitely tells us which wing is on top and which wing is on bottom. You can go back and brighten if you need to, and I feel like my white needs to be just a little bit brighter. If you want to go back over your green marks, you can, but I'm not going to. I'm just gonna brighten up there just a scooch. Okay. Let's go and add a little bit of that shading next to the body. So it's the black and the yellow. Maybe just a little bit more black this time. Make it look more black than yellow. And I'm just going to kind of pat that in to make it look like each wing is there. So I'm starting up here on the tip, and I'm just kind of pat, 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 pat right next to the body, following the wings. Okay. And I might just give a little bit more definition here. Okay, that really makes each wing stand out a little bit better. And I think I will add just a few little dots of white on there, just to make them kind of go with everything else. So I'm just going to do dot, 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 dot. Okay, just a few little shine marks on there. And I might come back. I don't really feel like this. Could use a little bit more white on these two, just these two. Okay, that looks really cute. Okay, let's move on to this one here. And that one we used our blue-green light. So I'm going to mix that with a little bit of black. And you just mix a shading color that you like. I would try going a little more towards the green side than with the black. Okay, so these two wings are on top. This one is on top of that one. And this one is on top of this one. I'll make sure I stay on my white dots there. And then we got a little separation of wings here. And then this is the bottom of this wing, so we're going to shade it. And this one. And this one. And that edge right there. Oops, I didn't even have you on camera for that. Let me add a little bit more black into that mix of green. And again, we're going to go right here. And along this bottom wing. Along this wing. Outer edge. And then we'll go with a little bit more black in the mix and go right next to the body. I'm going to try and connect those wings there to the body itself with the black. Okay, highlight with, you know what, I'm going to see how that, mix some white in with that green color. This might be too opaque. on top. This one's on top. Okay, that was with a mix of the blue-green light and a little bit of white. So I think I'll go back with just white. Few dots of white on here, like we did on the other ones. This one, I think I might wash some of that green over. I feel like I lost some of the green, so I'm just thinning that green down with some water. And I'm going to wash it over these wings. Now we can do our white dabbing. I need to put some fresh white out. You will use such a small amount of paint on this project, you'll just be so surprised. Okay, let's do dot, bigger dots. Dot, 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 dash, dot. Dot, 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 dash, dot. Dot, 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 dash, dot. Dot, 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 dash, dot. Okay, that's looking pretty good. My yellow wings here, I really love the color of those. I'm going to take some of that yellow and thin it down just a little bit. And just very lightly wash this in. Just a little bit. I just wanted that wing, those wings to be a little bit brighter. So if yours are bright enough, you don't have to do that. Okay, our last one over here, we use the quinacridone violet. So we'll take that with a little bit of black. My quinacridone violet is extremely thick out of the bottle. All these other media paints are not thick, but this one is. Okay, so how do I have this? I have actually this wing on top, it looks like. So follow my line that I could not erase. And we'll shade down here. Okay, I'm going to add just a tiny bit more black into that. Oops, paint on the wrong side of my brush here. And we'll darken just a little bit. I worked it into my brush with some water so it wouldn't be, you know, so dark to take over the whole wing. You got to be using a brush that fits the area. Don't get your brush too big or it's going to take over the whole wing. Okay, and this one I don't think I really need to highlight. I might brighten my dots a little bit, but I'm going to shear a little bit, thin down a little bit of that quinacridone magenta. And put a little bit more of it in here. I don't want to cover my white dots, but I think I'm going to have to come back and redot them in. I just want this to be just a touch brighter. I want our butterflies to be bright. And we don't want to lose how pigmented these media paints are, because they are pretty awesome. I'm just going to go over my dots and repaint them. So you might want to wait to do your dots after you do your shading, in case you need to wash in some more color. So let me redot these, and I'm going to go back and check my other wings. These are dragonflies. I think I keep calling them butterflies, but they're dragonflies. So, excuse me for my error there. I think all the other ones look pretty good, pretty bright. So I'm going to wide angle out so you can see them shaded and highlighted. We still got a lot of detail left to add to this, but that looks so cute. I am loving it. Okay, let's work on the bodies. Now on all the bodies, we're just going to take some black and some white and make a gray. Let's make a medium value gray. If when you put it on it's too dark or too light, then just adjust one way or the other. So I'm going to add some of this color on the tops. Got just a little bit too far over on my brush. Let's see, I think I'll come along the top edge back here, and then we'll go along this edge here. So you'll do the top of the eyes, if they have eyes, along the top, and the back edge of the body. In so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. And then a little bit on each section here. And then I'm just going to go down kind of the center of that one. I'll probably have to come back and brighten that because I don't think that's going to be quite bright enough. I'll have to come back and brighten on all of them, I think. And then we'll just go down the tail. So I'm going to add a little bit more white to the mix here. And, oh, I forgot this one. And then we'll just come down that edge of the body a little bit. Alright, let me just brighten this. Just add a tiny bit more white into the mix. It's still gray. It's just a little bit lighter gray. Some black back in that one. Too much filled up. So let's make it dark here. anywhere you kind of feel like you lost some of your black, just go add it back in. Let's add some here, kind of separate our eyes. I'm going to make sure there's a little bit of black to separate these sections. This is just if you feel like your float got carried away and went too far. Okay? That's going to show up. This is the teal, the cobalt teal hue. I'm just going to put a little bit of this in the bodies. Oops. Try and keep you on camera. You'd probably like that, wouldn't you? Alright, just a little bit in there. Very pretty. Let's see how some of that green would look in the body as well. Because, you know, dragonfly bodies are they're not just black. So, we can add some of these blues and greens in the body. And that'll make it more fun. Definitely more fun. I'm going to take my little round brush and some white and just, you can use a detail liner here, just a little bit of a highlight. I'm just putting the tiniest bit on here. Okay, so it already looks like it's faded down in there. Brighten that up just a tiny bit. Okay, those look really good. So we just used the gray to kind of highlight, and then we went back and just put a little bit of the ultramarine blue and the blue-green, no, it was cobalt teal hue, and blue-green light. Okay, let me wide angle out a little bit. I went in and drew by hand scroll work in the background that I want to add. Now, you can add this with a stencil if you have a scroll stencil that you like. You can add this in the background. I would maybe recommend adding it before you add your dragonflies, but because I wanted this to come after I did all of my dragonflies, I just hand drew it in. It will be part of the pattern, so you don't have to worry about trying to figure out, you know, how to do it. But I just wanted you to know that you don't have to have a stencil for this. You can use a liner brush to put it in with some thinned black paint, thin to inky consistency, or you can use a stencil and stencil it on with some black paint. I am going to use an Magenta pen. Okay, this is a dual tipped pen. It's a 1 millimeter and a 0.4 millimeter. I'm going to use the 0.4 millimeter, which is the small end of this pen. We're going to do all of our scroll work. All of our antenna is going to be done with this pen. Okay? It's very quick with using this pen. You can paint right over this ink. You can varnish right over it. It is just a very great pen to have. If you don't have one, I definitely highly recommend that you get one. So everything will be done with this, and I'm going to do dots around my scrolls, and I think I want that to be a little bit more curly. This is whimsical. I do have some just plain scrolls. I think I'll add some dots along the antenna as well. Make them a little more whimsical. And then I'll come back in when I'm done and erase all of my graphite lines. I only drew the graphite lines on here so that you could see kind of where I was going. And I might come back in with the bigger tip and make these dots bigger. I don't know. I kind of like them small like that. So just go along here, be creative, or use your stencil. This is so fun and relaxing. You don't really have to think too much about it. Just have fun. Oh my gosh, so much fun, so much fun. And add so much detail. And I might not be following my lines exactly, but creative interpretation here. You don't have to. You can put as much or as little detail along. Or if you don't want any of this on there, you don't have to do it. Definitely up to you. But I think it's going to add so much fun and whimsy to this design. I think I need another little scroll here. Felt like it was a little open space there. So now I'll come over to this one. This is a big one that I did. Going over the chalk pencil kind of wants to lighten my ink here. How fun is that? So fun. So fun. And it's super easy, super quick. Much faster than trying to paint it in with a brush. Yeah, I've drawn one coming off of there, but I think I might change it and have it kind of go through my Y right there. Too much fun. You can add other dots in the background if you feel like some areas need some filling in somewhere. Then you can just go in and add dots in the background. This just goes so quickly. And then this one I made great big, going through our letters here, sort of. And don't forget this little guy's antenna. And then he has some little things coming off of his wings down here. So we'll put those on. And some dots going around the outer edges of those. And it looks like we got a little one here. How fun is that? That is so much fun. I think that looks great. Now, I'm going to go in and erase my graphite lines here in a minute. For our letters, I want to do the same thing. So, I am going to dot, dash, all the way on the left sides. And you can choose how it looks. I'm just going to do some dots and some dashes. And I'm not going to make a match by any means. Dot, dot, dash, dash, dot, 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 over there, dots, dash, dot, just dots and dashes all on the left side of our letters. Okay, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay, I think I want to shade around the outside edge, and I might want to wash some color on the letters up a little bit. So let me figure out what colors I want to do there. Okay, I think I'm going to take a little bit of the blue, maybe. I've got too big of a brush here. Let me wash that off real quick. I don't know, I might leave these white. I haven't decided. Yeah. Let me just go in and get all my chalk lines off. I haven't put any paint on them. I can remove them with water. I'll have to erase that. I'm just using clean water because I don't want to put any color on here. So any of my white lines that I put on here, and I drew mine on with this, but still, even if you use your transfer paper, if you haven't gotten any paint on it, it should just wash away. If it doesn't, just try one little area, and if it doesn't, then just use your eraser and erase it all away. Okay, all my lines are gone there. Let me come in and erase my graphite lines. because I put clean water on them. I didn't set it in with that water. But if I'd had any paint in that water at all, it would have set these graphite lines so that I wouldn't be able to erase them. So you always got to be aware of that. Okay, before I do anything to the outside edge, I want to add some sparkle on my wings. So we're going to do that with some Glamour Dust, Ice Crystal, one of my very favorite products. So I'm going to apply 2 coats of this on each wing. And then we're going to come back and put some other stuff on after we do the shading around the edge. We want our wings to get completely dry with these 2 coats. And then we'll come back and add something else on top of them that's really going to make them pop. All of our wings. So this is just going to be repetitive stuff here, painting in the wings. I'm going to apply 2 coats, so I'm going to make sure the first coat is dry and then come back and apply a second coat. These are going to make them sparkle, sparkle, sparkle. Oh my gosh, if you do not have Glamour Dust in your paint kit, oh my gosh, you have got to have it. They're still wet, so we're just seeing a little bit of sparkle, but oh my gosh, wait until they're dry. You're not going to believe it. Okay, I'm going to go finish up the other wings, and I'll be back when they're dry. Okay, I think my wings are all dry. 2 coats of Glamour Dust on there. I also put Glamour Dust on the letters. I don't know if I can get that to reflect as much as I can on the wings. Oh, aren't they pretty? Oh, love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so now we are going to shade all around the outside. And I'm going to use the Fluid Acrylics Ultramarine Blue. And I might mix a little bit of black in with it. Just to keep it from being quite so bright. So just get a little bit of black on the edge of your brush and mix it in with that blue, just to take the blue down from being quite so bright. I'm just going to keep working blue into that until it's just about the right color. So that is that's how bright it is normally, and so we took it down quite a bit. I'm going to wash my brush out because I had paint over a little bit far in the bristles, and reload it with this that I mixed here. So we are going to apply this to the outside edges of our entire project. Squirt some water on my palette so I can have some to pick up as I need it. And I think another dragonfly could have fit right there. So you can add an extra dragonfly onto yours. Okay, so we're going to do all of our edges with this mix of a little bit of lamp black and the Fluid Acrylic Ultramarine Blue. And I'm just going to mix on my brush as I need it. A little bit more water in that water edge there. Kind of round those corners a little bit. And then we'll bring this all together. A little bit more water. Make it flow. And grab my mop brush right there where I turned the corners. I want to kind of make sure that's softened a little bit. I think it could use just a touch more black in the mix, so I'll finish with this mix, and then I'll come back with a little bit more of the lamp black. Kind of like we did on all of our shading. We did it first, and I felt like it needed more black, so we went back and added some more black in there. Go down this edge here. Let me wide angle out because this is a long piece and I've got you completely off camera for it. Need some water here on my brush so I can get my paint to flow off of it. So definitely a little bit more black in the mix there. So it'll be a darker blue than what we initially used. Get some water on my palette and go back over this a little bit darker. If you like it the lighter color that we did initially, you can leave it that way. It's your project. You don't want any shading around the edges, that's completely up to you. I just think it gives the piece that little bit extra that it needs. Okay, focus camera. There we go. There we go. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. I kind of like that. Alright, so let's get this dry. Okay, that looks really good. I like the way it turned out. I like the bling on there. Now, this is where you can be done with it. You can choose to varnish it here and put your hanger on it, and you'll be done. But I'm going to add one more step. So if you're going to do this next step, you still want to go ahead and varnish it first. You want to put this on last. I find that it just looks better last. You can varnish over it, but I feel like it loses a little bit of its luster when you varnish over it. So I would do this last personally. If you've got a good high gloss varnish, then it probably wouldn't take this down at all, but this is like liquid glass, so it is very, very shiny. Okay, one thing I did real quick was I went in, let me zoom in here, and around the wings I put some little dots just around the wings, so you can add that or not. Okay. Alright, so now the step that is optional for you is adding the liquid glass. You can brush this on, but I'm going to use it just straight from the bottle to fill in the entire wing. And I should have had it upside down so all of this could run down to the tip. So I'm going to kind of outline the wing and fill it in. It will dry clear, it will dry raised. Make sure I stay in lines. Fill it in. I don't want any gaps in there. Okay, so we're going to do this to all of the wings. And like I said, this is an optional step. If you don't want to do this, or if you just want to brush it on, brushing it on works just as fine. But I wanted the raise. Brushing it on will keep it more flat, a flat glass look. This gives it a little bit more dimension, which I think is a lot of fun. Okay, I'm just going to finish out this dragonfly on camera, and then I'll go off camera and do the others. And I will come back and show you when it is completely dry how it looks. But it's gonna look so awesome. So awesome. This is so much fun. And you could do just a few of the dragonflies. You don't have to do them all in this. You could just pick a few. Like I think this one would look great, and this one. So maybe this one here. So I might just do those 3 out of the ones that I put on here. So I'm gonna go off camera and see how I want to finish these up, and then I'll come back to you when it's all dry. Okay, my wings are all dry, and as you can see, these look like glass, and they're raised. They have some raised texture. They look dimensional. They feel dimensional. And then these are just flat here, because I only did these 3. But what a difference. I love the liquid glass. I highly recommend you getting some and trying it, because it was so much fun on so many different projects. Alright, that's my project on this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. And please subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one.